You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
This is Sarah Romano-Diehl, and I am with Ken Vellante and Carol Butler.
Woo!
And we are on Something Rather Than Nothing podcast, which I was introduced to and recently this month, and I love it, and I'm a huge fan, and we're going to talk about art and philosophy with Carol Butler.
I hate that my name's so fucking anticlimactic.
It is not.
Oh,
There's
no,
nothing.
it's just very flat, Carol Butler. Okay.
There's
yeah.
nothing anticlimactic about you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, I guess I should say how I found you, Carol, or met you online, because we have a mutual friend named Ivy.
Oh, I love Ivy.
Me too, who lives in Arizona and just was raving about you and your art and was like, you gotta follow Carol. So I checked you out, and you just like exude energy and art and like life.
Oh, that's sweet. I love that.
So how do you know Ivy?
We actually we worked at Whole Foods together, and he was this very sweet. I don't know if precocious is the right word, but he's very useful.
Yes.
And it just immediately endeared to my heart. We were working together. We have this mutual friend named Kelly that worked there, and we both just like always like to tease Kelly and call him Hot Kelly. But I just through the just working at Whole Foods of all places. It's funny when I think of Ivy outside of the context of that. It's just funny, like the people that you meet in like these weird corporate retail spaces, because there's a lot of like rich things going on in those people's lives. But yeah, that's how I met him, and he's just been funny, and we'll drunk text on Instagram every now and then. But I love that kid.
Yeah. That's awesome. We went to art school together.
He told me that. Yeah, I was just like, it always frustrates me because you can't really share his photography online because his page is private. But he takes beautiful photos.
Gorgeous photos, yeah. And used to paint. I have a giant painting of Ivy's.
Does he really? He paints?
Yeah, like, we were painting together, and Ivy used to make the most gigantic paintings that are like really abstract, cool stuff. So. Oh,
he's gonna love that we're talking about him right now too.
Shout out to Ivy. Shout out
to Ivy. Bye.
Hey, when with at Whole Foods, the CEO was famous in saying that unions are like herpes.
Oh, John.
Oh my God.
That guy sucks.
Us in the labor movement remember that one, and gosh, we're annoying, labor unions. I get it, but come on.
I mean, he also wrote a book called Conscious Capitalism, which we all got a good laugh at. So that guy sucks.
Imagine getting through that book. Maybe somebody has. How do you get through? I mean, your entree is conscious capitalism.
Fire. Yeah, it's not good.
So it is great to have Sarah Romano-Diehl here. And as a matter of fact, Carol, I don't know if you know this, we're recording right now in mid-September. The SRD episode is becoming known in the underground is coming out in a day.
Oh,
so that episode. One thing I wanted to mention before we get into serious matters too is when people share something online and you don't know me, but like something that somebody posts and puts you in you're like, this is rabbit hole territory. I'm lost forever. And there are dangerous people around, and you ended up being one, Carol. And I saw some of your stuff with Norm Macdonald.
I love
which
him.
I adore.
Absurdist. God bless Canada. Thank you for that one.
thank you for that, but no thank you, because for the last 36 hours, I've been on that frantic search for uncomfortable 9/11 jokes from Norm Macdonald, and there's no darker, but more hilarious place to try to follow Norm.
Well, I mean, he's so ornery. I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously, when we didn't start recording when I said this, but I'm like, I've just been an absolute mess right now. So, like, whenever I'm just like really in my head and it gets dark, I feel like I always go back to Norm Macdonald's stand-ups, which, I mean, thank God for YouTube, because there's just like so much footage of him on there. But he's just such a true absurdist, and he just has like this very warm, buttery feel to him. But the way that he's able to like kind of like pounce back, like I don't even know what I'm just trying to say, but he's very ornery, and it's like a very kind energy that I like being around in Norm Macdonald's kind of internet space.
Yeah, Sarah, you dig on Norm?
I love Norm. Yeah, he's great. I should go down a rabbit hole with Norm.
Oh, yeah. It's the one thing about him, before we ask you serious questions, Carol, of consequence in the history of philosophy, is with Norm, there's this technique that I'm like, it's my kryptonite for laughter, where the inflection of the word, or the slightly wrong word, or the slight mispronunciation of somebody's name, I'm like, how did you stumble into that comedic key that fits into me? We just say it just wrong in this fucked up way, and it just messes with your head.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's like he's clocking you the whole time. You know what I mean? And he just does like that old man cadence of things, and like the way that he talks about like old man Rafferty, and I don't know. It's, whatever he figured out, it's very wonderful. I love him.
All right, but this is about Carol Butler, which is not anticlimactic.
It's a hamburger of a name.
Hey, this is America, right? So hamburgers are revered here. I'm vegan, but hamburgers are revered here. Sarah, hit Carol with one of the like big art questions.
Carol, what do you think art is?
Oh God, that's loaded.
Not anticlimactic.
No, not anticlimactic. I mean. Oh God! I mean, it could be so many things, Like, I mean, I'm sure you've had a bunch of people kind of like get settled with this question, and like not really know how to respond to it. I think, for me, art. I think that there's like my academic perception of what art is, and I think that that's kind of a mistake. I think, and I've like spent a long time trying to like unlearn that, because I didn't go to art school. I can say like what art was for me. Was definitely a reprieve. I was constantly going back and forth, like as a child, between schools. So I was always the new kid in places. And I think the thing that helped me kind of just like cope with my introversion was drawing on a paper. Because I could do that and be solitary. I wasn't eating like gum paste or anything like that. And it was just like very exciting to kind of like see like where these like kind of doodles would take you, and you like check out. I mean, I don't... I don't know what I would say. Yeah, for me, it's reprieve. It's ultimate reprieve. I mean, the mess and bullshit that I'm going through right now, like the way that I kind of do like that classic bottling up of certain things. And then maybe like a few times a year, it just all gets purged, because it takes me a really like, I mean, the way that I process my own emotions is almost at a glacial pace. And then I can go on a bike ride, and then I'm like, oh, this is what I want to say. Like, this is kind of like the type of revenge or whatnot that I'm trying to get out on paper. But it takes me a really long time for that. So, yeah, I mean, I would say for me, it's it's a reprieve. And then a purging. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well,
yeah. That's a great answer.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I was gonna say, you mentioned going on a bike ride, and then you were able to like process thoughts and stuff about emotions. Like, I was just curious, like moving your body, is that just something that just like helps your brain function? do you think?
Oh God, 100%. I mean, it's I was really into weightlifting for a really long time, and I think I was going like through like the Dark Henry Rollins mode of it. But and I think for the longest time it was like for an aesthetic reasons, but I think ultimately, a lot of this stuff is like the way that like kind of like lives are designed right now is like you really kind of take for granted how much better you feel after moving, and there's kind of like that long swing of it where they want you to move too much, but for me, it's just, especially with bike rides in Idaho, because there's not much to fucking do out here. Going on long bike rides and doing kind of like an arduous climb, like nothing makes me feel better than that. And I haven't been doing it enough lately, but I think, I mean, yeah, exercise, Jesus Christ. I mean, outside of wanting to lose weight and creepy diet culture, I think that's the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Ken? Did I change your train of thought?
No, it's there's so much to jump into. Carol, I was interested just on the piece of you saying like processing like emotion in a glacial like at a glacial pace and just like
Mm-hmm.
that thing, because one of the things about art for me, and like just for example, last week I worked with a colleague of mine who was new to painting, and I'd never taken painting courses, but there was a simple kind of like technique to create something out of with the plate, laying down various colors and things like that. And so with the show and me, like I try to actively use art to process stuff. But when you said the glacial pace on the motion stuff, I really like tied into that, because a lot of people don't say that. Like I said it myself. Like I talked to like my therapist, and I'm like, how do you know like when you process stuff out? Like I have that problem of being like not necessarily like have I dealt with this, and is this out? And where does the art fit in for you? I mean, is it the physicality to get to that point, as far as like processing it better or getting it out? And is that what the art does for you? Help you process those things that are stuck or glacial?
Well, everything, like, I feel like, especially, like, so we all came together via the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
People want, or at least in the way that we create content, which, like, kind of makes me want to throw up, and thinking in art's regard to that, because, I mean, my babun, she was my dad's mother. She was telling me, because she was an art student, she said basically she was just like, you kind of can look at like the art is like reflective of the people and the time, right? So like in Renaissance times or whatever, like all this stuff would take, like people would spend like, I don't know, however long on these paintings. And it's just like now, just via like the kind of like tools accessible to us, you're getting this like really quick turnover on a lot of the stuff that you see that's kind of like popular in art now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to take any public digs at anybody, but a lot of it is just like very quick turnover. And I feel for me, with processing things, I, it's kind of like me being settled with like grief, like a relationship will end. And it takes me a really long time to like figure out exactly what it is that has upset me about that particular relationship, or like what I'm actually feeling that I've lost.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes, I mean, the thing is that you don't really figure that shit out overnight. Like, I mean, your response to it is immediate, right? Like, I'm upset. I'm fucking pissed. Like, why did they do that? But, there's like things that you can like unpack from your childhood that like I'm not really ever going to fully understand till I'm like my mom's age at that time when she did that. So I think when I talk about like processing that stuff and how it relates to art, I mean, I am kind of committed to this like ballpoint medium, which takes a really long time to work with. It's just kind of me, at least where I'm at, and the way that I make stuff is accepting that like my stuff is going to take a lot longer. And that also means that I'm not getting a quick return on like validation for the stuff that I'm doing. I'm not getting like any type of like growth in like my audience, if that's how the way that we're like kind of like quantifying the success of an artist in the internet age. But I think it is better because everything is so like immediate and you want that gratification. I want to know why the fuck I'm feeling this way now. It's such an unhealthy a way, at least for me, to process things. And I like, and it's way more uncomfortable to sit with these things for a long time and really dissect the reasonings why you're feeling the way that you're doing. I don't know where I was going with this point, but yeah, for the process and the glacial thing of it, it's definitely been a practice for me to go slower. Because when I do things too fast and I feel like I want to like post something, or I want to be like, this motherfucker, so here's this thing, it's cheap. For me, it's cheap. And the good things take a lot longer. You know what I mean? It's not to say that like if you have a quick turnaround on a thing, that it's not a value or anything like that. But I think I'm a little bit too reactive in my things. So for my own, self, I have to be a little bit more disciplined in the way that I go about these things. So it has to be slower for me. I don't know if that makes any sense. That kind of felt meandering.
No, I had a question for, Sarah, connected to your art, but one of the things I wanted to say, Carol, about and seeing your art, so I see it on Instagram. It's a great circumstance in life and accident for us to be doing this show together, so that's like super cool. But I want to tell you straight up, like I was looking at your illustration, and I love the ballpoint too. For some reason, for me, it's just like couldn't be more fascinated with like how that's done, or just how it just quickly emerges. But gorgeous work, art,
gorgeous.
I mean, like that kind of like instant. I don't know if you felt it, Sarah, but like the instant, like it's like this is an ink person. Like it's tough to describe. Like this is an ink like coming out. Sarah, I adore your art and your illustration. What does looking at Carol's stuff mean for you with your mind in illustration? What's that experience?
Well, my jaw dropped first time I saw your drawings, Carol. Seriously. Because you can tell that it's taken you time it's delicately done, but they're also very strong and like well formed and balanced, and just I can just tell the way you've applied the pen to the paper is just so skillful. I mean, I look at it, I just like want to like look at the drawings for a long time. So I love that you said that about taking time and processing things, and intentionally letting things take the amount of time that they need to be what it becomes, because it's worth it. Definitely.
Oh, thank you for saying that too. That I'm already on such an emotional ice right now that made me kind of want to cry. Thank you. I feel like it's hard to like reflect on that stuff. You know what I mean? Like when they say like people can't really see themselves clearly, so it's just kind of like you kind of like take a compliment or feedback with the bat. I'm like, oh, I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, both hosts are gushing. So, but Carol, when did you see yourself as an artist? I asked this of all the folks who come on to the show. Like some folks are being like, I came out of the womb with a paintbrush and a motorcycle, but what about for you? When did you see, like, in identity terms, you're like, yo, I'm an artist?
Oh God, you know what? I don't know that I still see myself that way. I don't know that I ever did. I think that there was, I spent a lot of time doing graffiti, like when I was a teenager, and I really liked, talking about like quick turnovers like that. It kind of, like I'll vacillate between things that I want to be like really intense experiences with art. And I think with that, it's graffiti. And I think like, graffiti was like all identity, right? But even then it felt disingenuous to be like, whatever my like dumb little tag name was, I was like, yeah, I'm Quip. That always just kind of felt really stupid to me. I don't want to like give this kind of like a blanket statement, but I mean, given the opportunity, I feel like most people can embody like, that of an artist. It's creative. It's creating like the internal, you're taking whatever's happening internally and then you're turning it out, right? So that's always not limited to, mediums that you can buy in an art store. as far as like, yeah, considering myself an artist, I think I've like engaged in that stuff. But most often, I mean, I feel more comfortable being like saying like I'm a produce manager before I'm an artist, because it just, again, with like kind of like the things of like being loaded. I don't know if that's like probably what we all struggle with, which is imposter syndrome. I have all these kind of like really dated perceptions of like what an artist is. And a lot of that is, like I said earlier, tied to academia. So for me, it's like, it's really hard to like say that. And I don't know if I'm being too precious about it, but when people call me that, I'm like, I'm kind of more of a piece of shit than an artist, but yeah, okay.
Well, it feels
yeah, I
like a
don't
big
know.
term. It feels like
Yeah,
a big term,
it's very grand. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's talk about something that's so open to chicanery. I just I don't know. I have such a hard time with the term artist, because I mean that can mean so many different things. So yes, I mean I would say before I'm an artist, I'm a day laborer who draws sometimes.
Yeah. Creative in the capitalist system.
Yeah.
Definitions.
Oh yeah.
Definitions. Definitions in flux, I guess, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, creating in capitalism. I mean, that's the real art, right?
Well, now, so you're based out in Idaho?
Yeah, I've been in Idaho for the past like I want to say 8 years now, almost. Jesus.
I got mixed up one time on the time zone thing, right? Because so I'm from Rhode Island, the East Coast.
Oh yeah, I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, I have a meeting. I have a union meeting one time. I was a statewide organizer for my union, doing some political stuff, and I had a meeting out there, and I'll be like Nissa, way Eastern Oregon, and driving to the meeting, and I get that first instance when I pass by the sign that says Mountain Time Zone, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm an hour late for my meeting right off the bat, and I haven't even started. I'm like, oh, change the time zone in this big old state of Oregon, which I didn't know until that point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, when we were talking about
Yeah.
time zones earlier, I'm like, oh god, I'm doing simple math again, and it's not something you can count on your fingers. So I was like, I'm gonna leap in. I hope this is correct.
You can handle mountain time. It's New Zealand, Oregon to New Zealand. That can be the that can be the tough one. Carol, what do you think I mean, you talked a bit about it and talked about art a bunch. Do you think art has a specific role, and does it have a specific role here in 2023? I mean, if the skies are going on fire, all this stuff's going on, political, whatever, if it feels that way, is the role of art different right now?
I don't know that it's different. I think it's more challenging right now. Like, I feel like every now and then I see that quote floating around that they're just like, of course, in like these precarious times, like this is when you need art most. And that is true. That is definitely true. But I think just in the sense that like, the people who do create these things, we're very sensitive people. And it's just like you cannot engage in the news cycle right now without kind of feeling like everything actually is falling in on you. You know what I mean? A big thing that I wrestle with is climate doom. Like, I have a really hard time with figuring out what like the moral implications are of checking out on that. Because I can't create when I feel like Chicken Little. Like I just can't.
Same.
And I mean, therein lies like the necessity for going on a bike ride so I can get the fuck out of my head. I think art is very important. It's integral to the human spirit. We all engage in it. It really is. And I don't want to sound like a cliche person, but I mean, just when you talk about like this writer's strike and stuff like that, like everybody was taking, speaking of reprieves in like television shows. You know what I mean? Like I can't remember how much music I listened to during the pandemic breakdown because I didn't have to engage with customers. You know what I mean? Because I was a produce manager when that was happening. It still is happening. And people wrote some beautiful music. I mean, one of the most heartbreaking things to me about like the span of a human is the fact that like I only get however many years. I'm still not going to hear all the songs that are going to change my day. You know what I mean? Art is so important. where we're at right now in this moment, my heart goes out to everybody, just in the sense that like it has been extremely difficult for me to create now. Because I feel like you start to see the futility in a lot of these things, especially in like this, sense of like, it really feels, and I live in fucking Idaho, you can feel the fascism creeping in.
Yeah.
And that is really difficult to carry every day. So yeah, as far as like, is art important? Yes, art is important. And I would say this to, because I had a really beautiful dinner with a friend of mine last night. He was just like, you owe it to yourself to check out. You have to figure out how to, and I don't know if this is like, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know if what I'm saying right now is negligent to people, but I know for myself, like if I can't figure out how to compartmentalize things, it will all start to cave in on me.
Yeah.
So go on a fucking bike ride, get off your phone for a while, even if you have to just do it for a day and just kind of like muscle through the suck of the first few hours of when you're drawing. Because, dude, I will draw, and there are days where I'm like, have I even fucking ever drawn before? This is all horseshit. Yeah, I just, to kind of drive home that point, it is very important, I think. Because, I mean, I think about the things that, like, incite me to stay alive have been beautiful art pieces, you know what I mean? And there's too many to reference right now, but, I feel like it's just really one of those places where you can find communion with other people, and be like, I am not alone in this shit show. Like, you see it happening too. I just think it's so fucking tough. Like everything is so tough right now. On a psychic level, it's so fucking tough. Like everybody that I talk to right now is just like, holy Santa Claus shit, what the fuck? And it's like we're also like even contending with like this bystander effect, because it feels like everybody should be running outside screaming, but you're not seeing that happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's another kind of like, it's this dystopic psychedelic thing that I kind of see, and I gotta like, you're getting me on a particularly manic day, but there's certain days where I'm just like, oh man, yeah, Carolyn, you need to run. You need to like lift some weights or do something. But I can't say enough how much I think art is important, because it truly is. I mean, even if I'm saying that in like a kind of precious way. Like, I don't think that most people realize how important it is. I don't think that I realize how important it is, just been to me in sustaining myself.
Okay, I have a question about that kind of. So there's like the importance of, like you said, processing and making art helps you. But also for the viewer, like, what do you think? Do you feel... I mean, it seems like, it's like even when it's most important, it can be the most difficult to create, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're saying, and I guess like so do you think about the viewer when you're making your art at all, and the importance of what someone's going to get from it? Or is it all, do you just kind of do it?
No, I mean, no. Who I most think about is, and I have to block him regularly because I was just so mortified when I found out he started following me online, is my dad. Because I feel like I can be like very sexually indulgent in a lot of things. Because I mean, what the major theme in my life has been unpacking trauma bonding through my relationships with men. You know what I mean? And I think there's a part of me that's very embarrassed by that, because I would like to think I have more depth than that. Like I could go on some like Carl Sagan, tangent, and I could like mystify millions. But I mean, I'm very limited to a Sex in the City experience, unfortunately. So it's very like kind of cringy when I think of my dad watching this. But as far as the audience goes, no. I mean, I'm not really concerned with the audience. My art isn't about them.
Yeah.
Whether or not they respond to it, great. But no, I mean, this is just me like unpacking my bullshit.
Carol, one of the big questions, so we can kind of clear it out of the way, because it's like it's the something rather than nothing question. Just clear it out of the way, and then we can talk like some other bullshit a little bit more. This might be bullshit. That might be the most bullshit question there is. But why is there something rather than nothing?
Oh God, I lived at a Buddhist center for about 2-3 years off and on in Albuquerque.
Cool.
And I remember we had this. He's like the guy who headed the thing. He was the head lama or whatever. And I won't go into this organization's name, but it was filled with a bunch of rich people who I think struggled with the philosophical struggle of like, why do I work for Sandia Labs, and how can I unpack this with Buddhism, which I thought was very precious. And so I remember we were at some conference, and he was just kind of like going on, and all these people were like very particularly impressed with this guy, and I wasn't very moved by whatever the fuck he was saying, but I just got so frustrated. And I remember having this problem with Disney movies when I was younger, like, why is there problems versus just not having problems? And I remember I asked him the same thing. I mean, with the Disney movies, I was just stressed out. I'm like, this fucking Ursula bitch, she needs to chill the fuck out. Those movies are extremely dysregulating for children, just FYI.
Yeah.
So
On
I just
purpose.
remember dude. I remember we were having this lecture, and he was kind of just making like this weird point, and I was just like, this doesn't, like, none of this makes sense to me. And I can't answer this question because he's supposed to be of this grand mind, and he just gave me this bullshit answer. He was like, well, why is there the monkey or the blah, blah, blah? And I just remember kind of like looking at him and being like, no, like, what is the evolution of karma? You know what I mean? In like the actual sense of it, it's like cause and effect. Yeah. Like, why the fuck did all this happen? And I think, until, the last human burns out, I think we're going to be kind of just faced with that question. Or you don't engage with that question because it's a little bit too big. I don't have the answers why something or nothing. There are days where I wish there was nothing, but there is something. We have Prince. Prince is something. Prince is incredible.
Right.
You know what I mean? I went on this like trip
Proof.
a while ago. Yeah. Oh my God. Talk about a something.
Yeah.
And I found I like just started to celebrate the entire catalog of Yes, and I was like, holy shit. When you like find a band that you kind of like shelved, and then for whatever reason you give yourself permission to explore it, like when you're 36 finally, and you're like, how, out of the like kind of just like oversaturation of most classic rock did I never hear In and a Roundabout by Yes?
What do we need to know about Yes?
Yeah.
What do we need to know about Yes, Carol? I mean, you dropped into this. You feel that at your age, you waited too long to get into this. You're dropping into what's going on with Yes that we need to know.
Just that it was incredible. If you're already oversaturated with it, which I'm sure a lot of people are, it was just incredible. It was incredible. I couldn't get stoned in this particular country, so hearing that song was just such a good rip of music. And we can go on. Yeah, I don't know. It was incredible. Like when you see somebody who like just started watching a show that you've already watched 5 times, and you wish you had that blank perspective that they're about to engage in.
Oh yeah.
It was almost like a gift. I was like, I'm actually happy I haven't heard this song until now.
Yeah, that is fun. And particularly sometimes like there's something where I don't know if either you can do it, but like on that point where if it's like so like maybe time centric, or you have the feel for like culturally what was going on there, but you drop into it in such a heavy way for the first time, completely out of context, 2023, and being like, I don't know these songs, I should have, and you go through the album. It's so strange to listen to it. Just, I don't know. I see it in terms of time, just ripped out, a space.
Oh yeah, and it's just so rich. It was so rich. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, I had a lot of good times just listening to those. And I just railroaded all those songs, so now I can't hear them. So now I'm actually where I should be as a 36-year-old person with Yes in the cultural collective.
Well, the difficulty for me, I've listened to hip hop forever, and now like old school hip hop people, like younger kiddos, like saying this, and they're talking like shit in 2015. And it's just,
that's weird.
It's just really killing me because, like, I know, like, my old school hip hop, like 83, 84, like, that's not even like in the books anymore. Like, people know that it's way there, but it's like almost like silent movies. And I'm like, that's old school hip hop, isn't it? And it's like,
well, I mean, that's the other thing too. That's like hard for me to like digest a lot of times because I was very much into like punk, and to me, it's like a mutable feature of youth, right? It's something that I associate with youth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like now when I see like I remember, oh my God, who the fuck was that guy? It was like Keith. It was one of the original lead singers of Black Flag. I was with my buddy in Hollywood, and he was sitting next to us, and I was like,
Yeah.
"You're not supposed to get old, man. Like you're supposed
Yeah.
to stay in that mutable space."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really weird to see that happen. I don't know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I feel that with what you call it, hip hop too, because I mean that's something that I feel like is synonymous with youth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hip hop is 50.
Yeah.
what was your tag there? You said you didn't like your tag. You thought it was silly, Carol.
Oh God, no. We won't talk about that.
Shit. Oh, we'll leave that there. We'll leave it there. I had a breakdancing tag. I didn't tag.
Yes.
So I was Sphinx.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
that's a good one.
Cool.
Because this white boy coming out of the background, you didn't know what was coming. It was a
Oh,
riddle. It was a riddle.
Check this out, Rock. Yeah.
You know? So they're like, all right, you know.
Oh no, I love that.
Hey Sarah, you have a breakdancing name, or is that too much of an assumption?
I have taken some breakdancing lessons from a friend of mine, and I'm really bad. I don't have a name.
That's all right. You can.
Yeah.
You a lot of the first names I came up with were taken by other people, and each one of those people could have picked me up and spun me on their finger and thrown me into the bushes. So I went through a few names to make sure I had the right name. Sarah, we have other art questions or rando questions. A couple more to hit Carol with.
Yeah, Carol, I wanted you to talk about your murals a little bit, if you would. Do you just choose, do people commission you to do the murals, or you're like, this is a great wall, etc.?
I've pissed off a lot of people with commissions. What's funny is we have this Tree Fort music event in Idaho, or Boise, excuse me. And a couple kids, they saw me doing window painting for a couple of the events that we had prior, and they were just like, oh, okay. They're like, we want to recruit you to do this. We'll give you X amount of money, da 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 da. But they're like, we need to see your sketch of it first. And I mean, this is months out. And to me, I mean, opposite of what I do with the ballpoint illustration, graffiti needs to be immediate. When I started doing graffiti, it was the product of basically having a nervous breakdown. And I would have to go into these things where I'm just what can put me in an immediate space? I was already drawing. I grew up with this kid who was my best friend, and her older brother was into graffiti. And so I had all those magazines, and I was just totally mystified by it, because it's just one of the things that I feel like a lot of people who grew up with the internet, and I mean, mind you, I did too, I'm not that old yet, is that there was still you would run into these things where it was shrouded in mystery. So graffiti was very intriguing to me, because my access to it was all via magazines. There was no context outside of those magazines. So with the graffiti stuff, it needs to happen spontaneously for me. So when they asked me for the sketch, I was like, bleh. Yeah, okay. I was like, here's some bullshit. Yeah, that's what it will look like, because it has to get approved by the city. And it was funny. So when we finally started executing it, I ended up doing something totally different from the sketch. And the guy was like, yeah, I was kind of nervous because we didn't really know what the fuck this was. And he was just like, oh no, this looks great though. And I was like, yeah, sorry. I always people will ask me to do stuff for them. And I was like, I have to give you a huge disclaimer. I'm just, it's going to take 2 years longer than you think it will happen, and then I don't know what it's actually going to look like. It's just going to happen.
That's so honest. I love it. It's so real. You are such a real artist.
I don't know about that. I sound more flaky and undisciplined.
It was almost like the line at the beginning, great teaser on the podcast. It's like, I pissed off so many. I'm like, I had a question. What about your commissions? I pissed off so many people. Cut. Next week.
No, truly.
Who did she piss off?
You know what? And those are people that will go on my block list. For some reason, I was like looking at privacy settings recently, and I was like, why are all these people blocked? And I was like, oh, these are people that I owe commissions to. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
It's one way of tracking.
It's the reason why I stopped taking deposits, because it's just like I would run into somebody, I'm like, oh, fuck, you gave me $100. I had to stop doing it. It's too much pressure. It's just, that's the other motivating thing behind art. Like, do I do it for an audience? Is it money motivated? It's for fucking me. It's entirely for me. It's a coping thing. So it's just like when people like want to, get something for themselves, I'm like, I don't want to draw your fucking kid. Like, I'm glad that you like my art and you want it to be like, your kid to be a part of it. But I'm just like, sorry, Matt, if you hear this, but yeah.
I get it.
It's, I'm like, no, this is about me, not you, which is sad, but I don't know. Yeah. Commissions are a tough one for me.
Yeah. What's the most recent thing that you've created?
Oh God, what was, a buddy of mine, I just been going through it recently, and I was like, dude, I do you have a spot I can paint up here? And he's like, yeah, there's this place, and then there's this place. And then, there is like a place, God, I'm so bad with names, dude. My, turnaround on short-term memory is just getting terrifying. Table Rock. So there's this huge, giant, statement cross up on the top of this hill, and they have all these buildings back there that a bunch of people will paint on. And he was like, yeah, you can go up there. I didn't realize how much of a hike it was, because they stopped letting people drive up there. So I'm still not done with it. I'll probably go do that after this today.
Cool.
But yeah, that's probably the most recent thing. And that is with spray paint. I'm reticent to call it like graffiti, because it's not really graffiti, but yeah.
Sweet. I hope to see photos of it.
That's what I was just going to say. I said, I think there's a part of this where there's this interest in the art you do and how you do it, and there's far more of a curiosity. So yeah, weid love to see pictures of that though. Not to intrude, but one thing you had mentioned Albuquerque, and I had never been down to New Mexico, and I went. I had some business there, union business. I went down there a couple times, and I had never. It's really tough to describe, but when I was there, I felt like really comfortable. But it was strange that I felt so comfortable, because there was something strange about the winds and those desert winds.
Yeah, you're talking about Albuquerque?
Yeah, I was so sensitive to like.
Dude,
right.
It's fucking sinister. There's something sinister
the deal?
about it.
Tell me now what's going on with that.
Yeah.
There is, I don't know what to say about it. I can't really particularly put my finger on it, because I remember when I would go there as a child, my family's lived there for before Albuquerque was a state, at least on my mom's side. And there's something like, when they talk about like land of mañana, there's a reason why there's like a huge, even still to this day, like a huge, just robust arts community. Yeah. Like in a way that like, I don't really see existing in a lot of places. And this is the thing that's really heartbreaking about the fact that it fucking costs an obscene amount of money to live anywhere, is the fact that it was so cheap. You could kind of just not be anything there and just draw. You know what I mean? Like, I really, like, the most I've ever created was in Albuquerque. There's really an environment that supports it. I think to the other end, why is it so sinister? It's impoverished. You know what I mean? And it's actually quite, I'm hesitant to use the word shocking, but the last few years that I visited there, the poverty has skyrocketed. Like, I mean, it is, you can't ignore it at this point. There never used to be tents in the highway. And I mean, you can say this about most American cities. Yeah. I think in conjunction with the poverty, the fact that it is so beautiful Albuquerque and those Sandia Mountains, when you get the
Yeah.
sunset, there is
Mhm.
Yeah.
something just unparalleled. I have been to a lot of different places. I still have never seen any place as beautiful as this.
Oh.
And it's just yeah, I don't know. It's just striking. You think that it wouldn't have or be as troubled, and I mean that's a whole nother historic capitalist type of podcast that we could talk about why Albuquerque is the way that it is. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like, like being in love with an addict or something. There's something just like a little bit off, and you're not really ever gonna get it. But it's so gorgeous. I don't know. I don't know if that's like the right what you call it, but yeah. Even now, because I'm probably gonna be going there at the end of this month. It's just it's I don't know. I mean, maybe that therein lies the nature of like what sinister means. You can't put your finger on it.
Yeah. Do you think it's history? Like that ghosts and stuff? Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I just found out that like Hawaii has something. It's not like the equivalent of skinwalkers. I forget what they're called,
Mm.
but we were talking about that. But yeah, I mean, it's shrouded in like folklore. You know what I mean? Like I think La
Mm-hmm.
Llorona is from there too.
Mm.
Yeah, spooky shit. You've got like the whole. I mean, that whole Oppenheimer movie just came out, and like just yeah, there's all kind. When I grew up there, I didn't realize how rich it was in history.
Yeah.
With historical stuff, because you look at it, you're like, oh my god, they kind of like turn this place out with like that kind of like corny Southwest stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening there. Like, I mean, I really do actually love Albuquerque.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, there's something that I picked up that was just bigger and mysterious, and it was a powerful energy, but was interested. There was an attraction of me towards the energy, even though it contained those elements, because I think it contains a lot of complicated elements, like you said. The other piece that was new to me is being around native community, like as part of the like city, like
Oh yeah.
like I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like going through and stuff, but I'm like visiting like a different community, and it isn't structured that way. Most places that I've been, as far as
True.
Oh, dude, that's a great
Mm-hmm.
point too. I mean, it's having grown up there, it's actually incredible contrast coming to Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like night and day. Like, I mean, it's not to say that like Idaho isn't beautiful, and it definitely has these things that are like, oh my god, it'll resonate with you. But it just there is something very spectacular about New Mexico that yeah, I don't know, and it's completely informed by the indigenous population there. And then just like the kind of like colonialism or colonization that happened there. Excuse me. I mean, I'm going to start talking out of my depth here, but yeah, it's incredibly complicated place, but incredibly beautiful. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Well, I was just there this last year in January, I think, or this year, yeah. And it was really cool to visit. I flew in there and got picked up by Ivy. Actually, I saw my friend Warren, who lives in New Mexico. When I lived in Colorado in the Four Corners in college, people always were making mean jokes about Albuquerque and stuff, and like talking it down. And
that's also warranted too, though.
Maybe. I know there's like, I guess there's like a gun violence crisis kind of going on.
Oh god, yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but it was nice to just be there this year. I was like appreciating all the beautiful things about it, I feel like, and it was cool to have like my friends who are so familiar with it like tell me all about, just like history and beautiful places that you can go and hike. And yeah, I was grateful for that experience. I think people should go visit Albuquerque.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is not sponsored. The complicated history and everything here, not sponsored by the tourism.
No.
But thanks, Carol, for
Yeah.
chatting about that. Actually, your comments and some of the mystery there in the air kind of really helped me kind of think more about it. I was enchanted, right? The land of enchantment.
Yeah.
I was Carol. I was enchanted. That's right.
Oh god.
And
Yeah, tell me about it.
what enchants me? That's the deeper question. And when I'm on the other end of the question, why does that enchant you?
There's something rather than nothing there.
There is.
Yeah, oh, yeah, but yeah.
There is, right? Carol, where do you as an artist and you making your things? Where do folks like find your art? How do you share your art? That type of thing.
I mean, I can only handle one social media platform, so that's Instagram. So if you want to check out any of the stuff and just kind of like unhinged bullshit that goes on from my day to day, it's at Drunk Mother Dancing.
Is that a particular style that's accompanied by videos as well, or is it just an aesthetic?
In regards to what do you mean? Like the way that it's showcased or the name?
The dancing.
Oh, you know what? My mom, there was this funny thing. We were watching Thelma and Louise one time, and like there's a thing that, what's her name? Is it Julia Davis? No. Who am I thinking of? She was in League of Your Own.
Oh, Gina Davis.
Gina Davis. Yeah. She's like imbibing and she's at that little Western bar and she like claps her hands. She's like, this is a good band. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's how my mom looks when she's drinking. And it's always funny to me to just, think of like the imagery of what comes to mind when you say Drunk Mother Dancing. Because everybody knows what the fuck you're talking about. It's like, mother's getting a little too loose tonight.
A little bit extra loud. Early on too.
Does a little like out of step clapping. I don't know. It's a very particular. I'm talking about my mom, but a lot of people see their moms in my mom. So.
No.
Well, and then the tias and the aunties come out and they get the arm stretch. Come join me in my.
It's a brick house.
Pulling you out here. So. Thank you so much for your art, Carol. And hey, Sarah, tell listeners again if they didn't catch your first episode, the SRD episode, which would have been released by the time of this one, where to find your stuff again, Sarah.
Oh yeah, I'm also on Instagram. It's Sarah Ro-Diehl. I also have a website, sarah-romano-diehl.com. So that's where my stuff is. And
she's very talented, folks. Check it out.
Thank you. That's so sweet. But I really look up to you both. I am so grateful to be talking to you both. It's like, man, such an honor.
I know. Thank you. This definitely got me out of my head. Jesus.
Yeah. Thanks, Carol. Too. I mean, I don't know. I get really attached to the pieces of how this comes about because this is one of the main things that I do creatively. But I think like talking about art like more fully and the fact that Sarah and I, met each other at the comic thing over in Portland, and she was down from like Seattle and I'm a little bit south of Portland. Then like meeting there next to another guest that I've had on the show, T. Edward Bach. And then Sarah and I doing an episode and I'm like, there's people like I run into and connect with and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what gets you like excited about art? Like who do you want to talk to? And, then we're led here and like to Albuquerque, like that's the piece, like for me and like the doing, like, I like the fact that I ended up like in Albuquerque somewhere and like in my own head, I understand part of my experience like better, just as like a weird thing that happens with this. And, the ability to talk with great artists about art, it's just like I spend enough time on that and be like, that's fucking cool. Like, this is cool to do.
Hell yeah.
No, that's awesome, dude. I love hearing that. And
just mark your customer experience well after this, Carol, and we're good. Your customer experience form, and hopefully it went well for you. Any final comments or a weird movie or weird song to listen to, Carol, or you just want to leave this where it's at?
Oh God, who did I get into?
Anything.
I go in and out with like classic country.
Yeah.
And I know that that's like a really safe shout for a lot of people. What the hell is this lady's name? I think it was Dottie West.
Okay.
And just, there's a fucking country song for everything. But yeah, Dottie West, Lesson and Leavin'. There's also I know everybody's been into this, but that Jungle, that music video where they're talking, where they have like that really like beautifully choreographed dance number. That was like very much a little sinkhole that I got into. And then just yeah, if you're fucking depressed, dude, watch some Norm Macdonald stand up. I definitely recommend it. His bits pieced
Yeah.
together with Conan O'Brien. I mean,
Oh
you're
my
probably still going to be
gosh.
depressed, but you're going to laugh a little bit.
Mhm.
I thank you for everything, including the Norm Macdonald clip there, Carol.
Yeah.
We help each other in so in so many ways. But
The great content exchange. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, the band, I'm gonna have to dig in there.
We got
So
Yes the band, Sarah. Anything super weird, super freaky or movie type of thing for listeners. A privileged point here just to throw out something goofy.
well, not really. I watched The Last Unicorn again recently.
Oh,
I
that's
Did
such
love
a
that
you?
cute
movie.
one. That's
Yeah.
talk about that has sinister undertones to
Uh-huh.
it. Something about
Yeah.
that like genre of cartooning. I'm always like,
Mhm.
shit was not kosher when they were making those things. I don't know. It's still like very stimulating to watch, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Red Bull.
Oh,
I
dude.
feel like that movie is like everything right now,
Oh,
because
big
the
time.
unicorn is the keeper of the health of the earth and everything.
Is that true?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the movie at least. Yeah,
Well, yeah.
and there's yeah,
I don't know.
and
Yes.
I'm asking
yeah,
what's true about unicorns. I'm asking you to like verify
yeah.
what's true about unicorns.
It's absolutely true.
That's all the answer I want. So that's what I'll keep talking about.
Yeah.
I have one thing that I've tripped out on besides Carol dropping me into the Norm Macdonald stuff, but the
Yeah.
is I've had on as a guest Sissy Framson, who's a puppeteer artist and is in a musical band, which is a princess pop punk band from Sweden. She does these stop motion animation with puppets and stuff like that, and she does the videos with the stop motion for this band called Viagra Boys, which I dropped into, which is this wild Swedish band with an American singer.
Cool.
But what I got to tell you is check out these videos done by Sissy for Viagra Boys, and she is absolutely amazing. She was in High Fructose magazine as well, so that's the thing I've been tripping out. So, but this is about you, Carol.
Awesome.
We're talking about all this wild art. It's so exciting to have you on the show from Idaho, which is a tense political state, being as diplomatic as I can be. But that's for another time. We're talking about fun things in Norm Macdonald. We're gonna head out now. Thank you, Sarah Romano-Diehl, co-host. A great
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah, super fun to
My
chat
pleasure.
with you. And Carol, thanks for spending time on the show and just
Thank you,
kind of,
Carol.
you
Yeah,
know.
thank you, sir. Thank you, Ken. This
I've
has
been
been
wanting
cute.
to talk to you forever, so
Oh,
it's
bless
such
your
a cool
heart, Rachel.
opportunity.
I feel like this is a coherent free for all, and we'll end it like that.
Right on, man.
Thanks.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.
And listeners, to stay connected with us and our guests, visit somethingratherthannothing.com. Join our mailing list for exclusive updates and access to guest-created art. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast platform. People really read that shit. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our community across the planet. This is a global show, and we like to give a shout out to our many listeners across the world, including many listeners in Canada, Spain, Germany, UK, Argentina, Brazil, India, Thailand, and so many more places. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast for behind the scenes content. And the best way to help the show is to tell your friends about us. If you love it, they'll love it too. Tell your friends who love it. We love you. This is Something Rather Than Nothing podcast.